Stop. Fix this date in your head. Sunday, February 8th, 2026. Ryogoku Kokugikan, Tokyo. This is not a normal 15-day basho where you can recover tomorrow. This is a one-day tournament, a knockout bracket, and one mistake deletes your whole day. It is the 50th edition. The arena is packed. The rituals look calm, but every Rikishi knows what is coming. A chain reaction of upsets, revenge matches, and one moment that flips the story of the entire card. On Sumo Spirit, we break down what happened, step by step. Let's begin. Now, I will explain to you how the bracket works in 40 seconds. The bracket works like a single elimination tree. Matchups are fixed before the fights, and in each one you win and advance, you lose and you're out. Weird matchups happen because it is not a normal schedule. Some seeded wrestlers can enter later in the bracket or receive buys, depending on the event format, so a yokozuna can start directly in a later round, while other rikishi fight more bouts. That creates rhythm jumps and unexpected pairings you would never see in a normal honbasho, and forces every competitor to manage energy and strategy throughout a single day. In practice, that means the road to the final is short but merciless. A bad takiai or a clumsy start leaves you out, while a streak of 2 or 3 good fights puts you in the final in a matter of hours. And the bracket, because of its simplicity, makes it very clear who is still standing and why. It plays like 4 labeled rounds, then the semifinals, then the final. The first round held no surprises, but in the second round Aonishiki faced Oshoma. This was a clash between Oshoma's offensive liveliness and the Ozeki's technical solidity. At the start of the bout, Oshoma came out with momentum and looked for frontal contact, but Aonishiki responded calmly, grabbing the mawashi early and seeking control of the tsuriyotsu. Oshoma tried to block the entry, but Aonishiki, when he sensed the opportunity, with a pull drove him out of the dohyo by Yori Kiri. Later, in the same round, Shodai faced Onosato. Shodai came into the second round with technical resources, while Onosato looked to impose his weight and charge from the takiai. The bout began with a tight clash. Onosato, with that yokozuna strength, responded to Shodai's charge, and when Shodai was about to push a second time, Onosato found the opening for a final shove that sent Shodai to the ground by Tsuki Otoshi, a clear victory for the yokozuna who knew how to read the distance. Hoshoryu entered the bracket from the second round and advanced unstoppable. First, he faced Onokatsu. Hoshoryu came out pressing from the takiai, looking to get close to the mawashi and lock in torso control. Onokatsu tried to respond with pushes and headbutts, but Hoshoryu held center and initiative. Hoshoryu stood out for control and drive until he achieved victory by Oshidashi. The major shock of the second round was the early exit of Kotozakura, a result that many pointed to as unexpected for an Ozeki. In practice, Daieisho appeared later in the subsequent brackets. He even reached the quarterfinals, where Abi eliminated him. So the reading of the day is that Daieisho took full advantage of the early elimination to sweep aside an Ozeki in his very first bout of the tournament and keep advancing. Kotozakura was not particularly effective in his initial takiai, and Daieisho used powerful pushing, combined with solid center control, to finish him off with Hatakikomi, sealing the surprise that sent Kotozakura out very early. We also had 2 back-to-back blows in the third round, 2 matchups with unexpected results that left people breathless. Onosato versus Ryuden. That day came the first major upset. Onosato, who arrived with good feelings after the Hatsu, was eliminated by Ryuden in a bout where Onosato failed to impose his usual frontal push. Ryuden, with patience to enter through the center and take advantage of the smallest gap in body space that the yokozuna left, closed the waist and gradually displaced him with Yorikiri until he was out of the dohyo. Onosato's defeat was surprising because he seemed like a rival against whom he could control the rhythm. Ryuden, for his part, seized the opportunity to exploit Yotsu technique and made it clear just how volatile a one-day tournament can be. Aonishiki versus Tamawashi. Another heavy blow was seeing Aonishiki, freshly crowned in January and carrying a lot of momentum, fall in the third round to Tamawashi. The young champion tried to impose his gripping sumo and variations, but Tamawashi, with his veteran savvy and dry pushing power, shoved him out with Oshidashi after an exchange in which physical initiative remained firmly on the veteran's side. The Tournament Chronicle sums up the surprise by noting that Ao Nishiki was pushed out at that stage and that his elimination completely reshuffled the expectations for the afternoon. It was a brutal reminder that a single failed takiai or a poorly read transition is enough to flip the prediction when everything is decided in just a few rounds. Two back-to-back shocks made the dohyo feel like it tilted under everyone's feet. That is the one-day knockout vibe. It turns sumo into emotional roulette, where technique and nerves get tested at the absolute limit of a single instant. One twisted takiai, one misread transition, and a favorite becomes a memory before the crowd even finishes reacting. The format amplifies everything. The bracket is drawn and locked, not paced like a normal honbasho schedule, so you can get strange pairings, even bouts you usually never see. And because it is single elimination, you have zero margin for correction. You sprint through 4 rounds, then semifinals, then the final. That forces wrestlers to polish the basics and coaches to train tiny mistakes on purpose, because any slip has a price. In the 3rd round, Hoshoryu faced Churanumi, who came in with some solidity from the January basho. Hoshoryu arrived with ambition to build rhythm heading into Osaka. Here, Hoshoryu looked to close the distance and neutralize his rival's attempts to keep the fight as a pushing match. The Yokozuna managed to control his opponent's hips and pushed him out with Yorikiri at the key moment, emphasizing physical superiority, and the Yokozuna's insistence. Hiradumi versus Tamawashi. During the 4th round, the clash between Hiradumi and Tamawashi was a brief duel between Megashira. From the first collision, Hiradumi pressured with lateral movement to avoid staying straight in front of Tamawashi's strength, managing to open an angle and force Tamawashi's balance to fall outward, ending in a defeat for Tamawashi by Yori Taushi, and with an extra kick to Abi's face among the audience. Daisho versus Abi. Daisho, known for his ability to impose the belt when he gets the Morozashi, measured forces with Abi, who came out determined to maintain distance until securing a good grip. After an initial struggle, Abi found the opening for a series of frontal slaps that disorganized Daisho and pushed him toward the edge until finishing with an Oshidashi. Gonoyama versus Ryuden. Gonoyama and Ryuden clashed hard at the beginning of the 4th round. Both were going to charge again, but Gonoyama was faster and executed a hata kikomi when Ryuden leaned slightly forward, leaving him with his hands on the clay. Gonoyama took the victory. Tobizaru versus Hoshoryu. In the quarterfinals, Tobizaru was the Mongol's next rival. Tobizaru is explosive and dangerous with his speed and lateral movement, so Hoshoryu had to impose power and prevent his opponent from escaping with changes. Tobizaru tried to use his first step to overwhelm, but Hoshoryu responded with deep contact, closing the center and forcing Tobizaru to retreat. From there, the Yokozuna kept the overgrip and displaced the smaller man step by step until he forced him out with Yorikiri. The semifinals started. Gonoyama versus Abi. In the semifinal, Gonoyama came up against Abi in a duel marked by Gonoyama's defensive solidity versus Abi's offensive violence. The latter, with cold reading and direct execution, took a lateral step at the takiai and unbalanced Gonoyama to finish with an oshidashi that sent him out of the dohyo. In the final stretch, Hoshoryu faced Hiradomi in the semifinals, who had shown good pushing power and desire throughout the year. When the moment came, Hoshoryu looked for the frontal collision, got a grip, and controlled his rival's flanks, pushing with low hips, and, when Hiradomi tried to resist, the Yokozuna drove him sideways with Yori Taoshi until he fell out. It was a power battle in which Hoshoryu set the pace and ended by toppling him. It was an authoritative semi-final from the champion. The final, my friends. Hoshoryu versus Abi. The grand final pitted Hoshoryu against Abi, who tried to use his threat of change and throw to destabilize the Yokozuna. Hoshoryu, aware of that threat, pressed, looked for close contact, and when he felt Abi's imbalance, he took advantage with a sukui nage to lift him from the lower body and flip him sideways. It was a clean, technical finish. It was one day, single elimination, and it ended with Hoshoryu taking the whole thing. 5 consecutive victories to lift the title, a progression that in practice feels like a concentrated power sprint. Abi presents himself as the ideal antagonist in this story because his style is, by definition, a focus of controlled chaos. He pushes when he has to push, changes rhythm with bad intentions when he detects an opening, and has timing on throws that makes any contact near the edge of the dohyo dangerous. That is why in the final, he was the perfect rival to measure Hoshoryu. His explosive style could turn a quick advantage into a sudden defeat, and that kept the outcome tense until the very last instant. Seeing Abi as runner-up underlines that final boss role of coming in to disrupt the favorite's plan, and that is precisely why the Tsukuinage, with which Hoshoryu finished the final, feels like more than a simple point. It is a statement win, a technical and confident response to Abi's chaos of pushing and initiative. That combination, Abi as a threat of instability, and Hoshoryu answering with refined technique that caps the narrative, explains why the final worked as the ultimate confrontation and why the result remains engraved as a duel of styles and competitive message. The one-day tournament does not touch a single number on the official Banzuke. That rule is sacred and nobody touches it. But what it does do is force the Rikishi to chain 4 or 5 consecutive victories in barely a few hours, something that never happens in a normal 15-day Honbasho. Here there is no time to recover. It is a brutal exam of physical endurance, perfect timing, and ice-cold head under extreme pressure. You lose just once, and you go home with your morale on the floor. That is why, even though the ranks do not change, this knockout gives coaches golden clues. How a fighter holds up his takiai after 2 back-to-back bouts, whether his legs give out after several intense shoves in the same afternoon, or whether he keeps the killer stare when the entire stadium is shouting rival names at the same time. They are the secret map that the Heiya will use to fine-tune their tactics heading into Osaka. Despite the snowfall that fell that morning in Tokyo, 9,030 spectators filled the Kokugikan to the rafters. The roar was exactly the same as in a full Honbasho. And Hoshoryu himself, after pocketing his 2,500,000 yen and lifting the trophy, spoke with the character of a yokozuna that defines him. I wanted to win this tournament to arrive with momentum in Osaka. As yokozuna, this title makes me very happy. In the spring I want to concentrate day by day and give the fans the sumo they deserve. Exactly the message everyone wanted to hear. It does not change ranks, but it can completely change the confidence and momentum with which they will land in the Haru Basho. And to close with a golden flourish, Hiradumi took the Fighting Spirit prize for his heart attack battles, those in which it looked like he was lost. And suddenly, zas! He left you with your mouth open. In Juryo, Shonanomi was crowned champion in an epic 3-man playoff with Hakuyozan and Kagayaki. 3 titans from the same stable sweating buckets for the 2nd division title. In short, a single day of madness in Ryogoku can be worth more than entire weeks of training. Osaka already smells like war, and those who came out alive from this knockout arrive with the tank full and eyes blazing. Let the Haru Basho begins. With Osaka getting closer, the air turns electric, because it is not just muscles that get tested there, it is reputations. Hoshoryu arrives with momentum, and this one-day bracket exposed tiny cracks in some big names, the kind that used to hide behind comfort and status. Now the tension is real. Everyone is carrying a private revenge story into that arena. Who lands the first statement win, and who rises above the pack when it matters? The stage is set. Osaka is already breathing sumo. Now I want your read. Who looks the most dangerous heading into Osaka? If you enjoyed this video, like, comment, and subscribe to Sumo Spirit. See you in the next one.